Good evening. The paradigm shift that the digitization of the world has impacted every sector, every business, every government. The media and entertainment industries are no different. The transition from print and TV to online, and then from online to social media, and now from social media to algorithms based content consumption is both an opportunity as well as a challenge for all actors in the business. When the radio was born, people said it's the end of print. When TV was born, experts said it was the end of radio. When video was born, analysts said it was the end of TV. There was a song called Video Killed the Radio Star, and these were all glamorized in popular culture as well as in academic analysis. But all of them have been proven wrong. All mediums, print, radio, TV, and video, continued to live and thrive. The market expanded to accommodate all of them. Are the internet and social media mediums any different? Will they replace print, radio, TV, and video as mediums? Or will they complement them as distributors? Or a mix of both? Me personally, I see both of them happening together. As a result, there are both opportunities as well as challenges these new mediums present. The opportunities are in the field of content creation. The challenges in the speed with which the thousands of professionals and creative people adapt to these changes. In the middle stands the government, which in response to public interest holds the regulatory responsibility. To discuss this changing face of media and entertainment, we have with us a diverse and hugely talented trio. Dhanya Rajendran, who is the editor-in-chief of the News Minute, a site that gives us news largely from South India. Chitra Subramaniam, who is the founder of CSD Consulting and a former journalist, a renowned journalist. And Tigmanshu Dhulia, who is a well-known film director and producer whose films all of us in India have seen several times. I will start with Dhanya, move to Chitra, then Tigmanshu. First, we will explore the opportunities and then the challenges. Dhanya, the News Minute is the opportunity that digital medium has offered dozens of professionals like yourselves. Tell us, what made you take this jump? How did you visualize this opportunity? Why did you enter here?
Thank you very much. So I was a television journalist before I made the jump to digital. In fact, Chitra was the person who told me that don't go back to TV, try do something different. We sort of started the News Minute. We thought about the News Minute in 2013. We started it in 2014. So the idea behind the News Minute was, of course, that digital news was booming in India, number one. Second, India is a country where more and more people are consuming news on their mobile phones. In fact, I think the last statistic was that almost 70% of Indians consume news on their mobile phones. So looking at the opportunity, and also I believe that to a large extent, it was not just about technology, but it was about journalism itself. I felt that journalism on television in India had become stagnant. The formats were not changing. The kind of journalism done was not changing. Therefore, digital was an all new format which allowed us to experiment and do more things, which is why I decided digital is the way to go for me.
So digital, you see it as a new medium rather than an old medium that is, or a distribution platform that packages the old medium. You need to evolve into this medium. Your news has to evolve into servicing this medium. Is that how you see it?
No, I see it as a combination of both. See, it is a new medium. You cannot treat digital as you treat television or newspaper. For example, all our newspapers, traditional newspapers and television channels, first they were simply publishing their e-papers, or they were simply publishing their stories which came on the paper online. Television channels were putting out the videos on TV, they just uploaded the same on digital. But over the last few years, even they have understood that people who consume digital consume very different things. They don't want the same newspaper story. They want more graphics, they want more data, they may want shorter stuff, some may want really long stuff. So you have to understand your audience and keep evolving. So digital in one way is a new medium completely, but in another way it's also an extension, right? And all this eventually is journalism. Like without a story to tell, without executing the story, doesn't matter what medium you use. If you do not know how to use the medium, then it's not going to serve the purpose.
Thanks. Chitra, is that the case the world over? How is this opportunity playing in your side of the world? Largely EU, but perhaps even the US and other. Is this the jump that happened when several news outlets came up overnight?
Yeah, hello everybody, and thank you, Gautam, for giving me the opportunity to be here. You see, yes, it is. I mean, you can see it in different phases in Europe and what they say on the other side of the pond, in the US as well. But one fundamental principle is that if you look at the business of news, we're all saying we consume news, but the business of these organizations is centralization. It is not, these organizations are centralizing more and more. And that goes at loggerheads with the consumption of information. So, I mean, you see it, I mean, the toughest law to date is the GDPR, this is the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe, which came into effect in 2018. But, that is one part. But there is no major European, if you look at the GAFA, there's no European digital operator in that link, but they're still affected by that. So there are issues that are coming up, whether it's a call for...
We'll come to these issues in the next round. I'm just saying, let's explore the opportunity. The way young entrepreneurs like Dhanya, or you were part of News Minute earlier, and several other news outlets have come up in India and across the world. Many of them have not been able to sustain. So is this opportunity another, like a gold rush?
Well, you need, as you say, you need to be strong and being diplomatic, because the onslaught is...
Don't be diplomatic.
It's more than money. It's not just money. Yes, you need money, but it's also a direction which is being set by these large companies, and on the one hand, and countries on the other. And we'll come to that later. I'll explain that later when you have an opportunity.
Thanks. Tigmanshu, tell us how this digitization and digital platforms have created new opportunities for producers, directors, and other several professionals in your industry, in the entertainment world.
Thank you, everyone. Hello. Gautam, yes, it's been huge. As far as news and journalism is concerned, I've only been an observer. But as far as filmmaking and the film industry, especially the Hindi film industry is concerned, it has created a lot of opportunity. But because earlier the films were star-driven, they still are, but slowly that impact of all the stars is diluting. I'm not saying that it's completely gone, but it is slowly, which I find very welcoming. So in the digital world, when you make a series or a direct-to-digital feature film, you don't really require big stars in them. Suddenly the cost of a product, I mean, it gets minimized drastically. Also, it has given opportunities as far as web series is concerned, is to create worlds. Earlier, when we were making films, you only had to push the plot forward. The kahani, story, kahani agani badi, kahani agani. But in the web world, you can create a world. You have so much time to do it, and that is also very, very pleasing. You get to work with new artists, young people who are trained, skilled, and are taking acting and other aspects of filmmaking more seriously than before. So in that way, it's very, very pleasing, and I'm very happy in this space. Absolutely. And like me, there are so many others who are kind of enjoying this. And also for technicians, I mean, because so much work is happening, even so after the pandemic, everything was stalled. Now so much work is happening. Even I'm saying, like, people like the sport boys and the night boys are earning. Everyone is busy.
No, I just want to give a personal link here, in the sense, these days when I watch entertainment, I find myself staying away from Hollywood and Bollywood and looking at European cinema. I'm looking at Latin American cinema. I'm looking at very different kind, Japanese, Korean cinema. This beautiful serial that has just come recently, Squid Games. It's an extremely thought-provoking, apart from being highly entertainment-oriented. So, do you see that happening in India as well? Like, because of these OTT, I've been exposed to Malayalam cinema, something which I never saw earlier. So, do you see that happening in the content that is made exclusively for OTT?
You're right. The world is our stage now. I mean, if we make something really good, entertaining, thought-provoking, somebody in Africa will watch my show. Earlier, we used to make films only for the Indian audience. Now the world is our stage. But I don't know how good we will be compared to the others as far as Hindi cinema and Hindi content goes. But because in India, the regional parties are really doing well. Now,
So regional cinema will also follow.
they're much better.
I'll go to the challenges now, Dhanya.
While far better than ours.
Yeah. Dhanya, while digitization has created opportunities that you talked about and you are now running, they often come with challenges attached to them. Tell us about some of them. For instance, the days when you could publish a story or produce a report and go back home and sleep are over. By the time you're getting back home, the social media has exploded, and an innocuous comment has turned into, that has become the news rather than the story itself. So what are the challenges that you see happening because of digitization?
No, of course, that is definitely there. The intrusion of social media into our lives, and it's even more when you're a journalist, right? When you put out a story, the reactions to it, sometimes the story itself spawns 2 or 3 more stories. So those things are definitely there. But I think the biggest interruptions and the bigger challenges for digital media in India comes from the government itself. There is no doubt about it. It is, I would say, unconstitutional, undemocratic challenges put forward by the government in various ways has been the biggest problem for digital media in India. In fact, with this government, for the last 2 or 3 years, they had been talking about clamping down on digital media. In fact, there was a case against this television channel called Sudarshan TV, which was in the Supreme Court. And when that case was going on, the government would deviate multiple times and say, but we are going to bring rules for digital media, though the case was not against digital media at all. So we did know that the government is going to clamp down. The first sign came when they decided for a 26% FDI cap on digital media. Look at the impact it has had. HuffPost India, which had broken some of the biggest stories, especially criticizing the government, had to shut down in India. Yahoo India, which did tremendous journalism, has also shut down. I think it's a loss to Indian journalism, it's a loss to Indian media, and a loss to Indian readers, the Indian public, right? Because the kind of journalism they were doing, others may not be able to do. So that was the first step. The second step, of course, is the infamous digital rules which the government brought in a few months ago, wherein they have put us in this whole intermediary basket, which I'm saying is undemocratic, unconstitutional for various reasons. And they have tried to put the onus of this 3-tier grievance system, not only on news, of course, on OTT channels and everyone, thereby making the entire industry very difficult. I mean, I started by saying that 7 or 8 years ago, when I started the News Minute, when Chitra and I came together, it was an opportunity for us to grow. But instead of the government allowing this industry to grow, it has done all it can to really clamp down. And a lot of times people keep asking us that if television channels and newspapers have some of these rules, for example, the digital media rules try to bring this code of ethics, right? So people ask us, so why not? If TV and print have it, why not for digital? My question back to them is, if television channels in India did not have the spine to stand up and say that they do not want government oversight and they should have fought against it at that time, why should digital comply now? We are saying that we
So
do
allow
not.
me to just interrupt. The time is. I'm just going to ask you one provocative question so that you can clarify this better. I've been a journalist myself, and I know we've always asked for regulation of real estate, regulation of telecom, regulation of securities market, regulation of insurance, pensions. You name a sector and it's regulated. Why should media not be regulated?
So if you're going to talk about FDI or GST on media, that's a different debate. For example, even that the government has various standards. GST on print is 5%, GST on television is 18%, GST on digital is 18%. So they do not first thing have a proper slab for this. So if you're going to talk about the business opportunities, then yes, regulation is something that the government can do. At what level can the government regulate? I have no doubts about the fact that the government can regulate in many ways when it comes to business of media. Now, what we are talking about is also the freedom of expression, right? The digital rules are supposed to hit freedom of expression. That's why I call those rules undemocratic and unconstitutional. So we need to separate the two things. One is government regulating the business model, which itself we can challenge as to how much and how long should the government regulate. The second is in the functioning of a media house, in the stories that we do, in the journalism that people do, why should there be so much of government oversight? And the digital rules that have been made are using 69A in fact, and they go to the extent to say that the government can pull down stories and need not give a proper explanation, and then we also cannot tell our readers why those stories were pulled down, which is why many of us have challenged these rules in various courts, and there is a stay now by at least one or two courts, because the courts have realized.
Let's see how that, because that is also part of the democratic process. So let's see how the judiciary rules on this, and whatever the case, I think it should go forward. My little view on this is that perhaps they should have had better engagement with the industry before going forward. But let's see what
they do not have at all, which is why I said undemocratic.
Chitra, would you like to come in here? Is this a global standard, or is India being overtly controlling? Because I saw similar things happen, not in the news media space, but definitely in the social media platforms in America, where they were talking about you can either be a platform or a news, so you cannot be both. You cannot get the privileges of protections of a news media if you're going to be censoring or if you're going to be behaving like an editor.
So your question is this a global phenomenon,
Yes,
and
right.
not just happening in India? To a large extent, yes, but that doesn't make it right or wrong. That makes it wrong. You know, just because somebody, a country X or country Y is doing it, but the debate is much larger, because one word that we hear very often and across sectors is that such a thing is a disruptor. That's a disruptor. You know, technology is a disruptor. You know, we've heard that very often. But truth is also a disruptor, and somehow to allow that truth to disrupt, you know, while the truth is being investigated, and unfortunately the dependence is all on these big networks. I mean, they have killed the business model, and I mean, I know news groups and communities in Europe who it comes down to money, and sites which are not having any advertising, any government or private, they don't want to take advertising. They don't want to be told what to do, not because they want to go against the government, but simply because they want to be able to tell stories. If it's a public service, you want to bring this story to your reader or to your listener. So that indeed is a global issue. But across countries, whether it is in Europe or USA, you find that governments are using different types of methods to try and stop the truth from disrupting. You know, and nobody has ever said truth is a disruptor, which angers them all. I mean, on the one hand, you have a product, let's say a service, you have a product or, you know, a company, which has, I mean, your audience is very different. But for a journalist audience is also very, very different. So you're looking at business on the one hand and journalism on the other. And I think at some point, you may recall that journalists had become CEOs, CEO, editor. Now, the job of a CEO is not the same as the job of an editor. And, you know, the CEO would, in commonplace terms, would be more money, running for money, driving money-driven, money-driven issues, whereas the editor is just the opposite. So these things have to be discussed, and I think there has to be, turning to what we're talking in India, we should have a much more open conversation. We should try and get the best.
I think those conversations are already happening between the media, the consumers, and the government and the regulatory. So I think those conversations have begun. I just want to ask one question: is this because of the medium, the digitized medium, and the flexibility that it offers, or is there something more intrinsic to this problem?
You're asking me?
Yes, Chitra.
No, I mean, why blame the medium? I'm not, a medium is a tool. Why would you blame the medium if it's for me, I will go even as far as to say that the new medium is a human right. It is my right to get information in whichever medium is available in my country, which is put out. So I'm not going to blame any medium and I also think, yes, it's not the medium's fault, it's how you use the medium. Or
So
what
like how Dhania said that you should treat all the mediums as in the same way and no need to penalize the digital medium excessively. Thanks. Tigmanshu, I'll just come to you now. I know you're an optimist and you're always forward looking, full of hope, etc. But still, you must be facing some challenges because you have also made films in the pre-digital and now digital times. So what are the challenges that you personally as a filmmaker have faced when you went digital?
See, as far as the technology is concerned, it became easier. Though, earlier we used to shoot on the negative, and now the digital medium, that technical shift is fine. Just brought the budgets down. But it's the content which matters, and I think that remains. That the problem which we were facing then, we are facing it really now. So, there has been no change. So, opportunities are there, but it is very steep. Journalists, you face a problem directly. Try and catch the bull by the horn. But as filmmakers, we kind of deviate. We get into emotions. We are indirect. Because our stories are more human. So, yes, I will not say that we are not facing problems. It is very subjective. Some people are not having any problems, but some are having really big problems. And while we are writing a script, we are scrutinizing our own creativity then and there. Ki boss, there will be a problem. So delete it at the script stage itself. So those kind of, some people are more courageous, some are not.
So have these problems accentuated because of social media? For instance, a serial comes and it talks about a certain religion or a certain ideology in a certain way, and there is a whole campaign that runs saying that boycott this serial or boycott this director, etc. Is that very common, or is it only in rare cases?
If the problem is, if some show is kind of showing something which is objectionable and somebody kind of catches it, so there's a problem. But honestly, Gautam, I feel that in India we do need a certain censorship, but that censorship should be of a more large-hearted people should be doing it. Now to identify those large-hearted people is also a big problem. But because India is a very different country, unlike any other country in the world, there are so many communities. It's like a beehive. Usme ungli mat do. Problem hogi. No matter how much we talk on these shows, no matter the problem persists, and to point at those problems, we can have a different debate. But yes, these problems existed before also.
You acted in the Gangs of Wasipur. It wasn't, you didn't direct it, but you acted in it. And the level of swear words, the level of brutality that came out there. In Mirzapur, there was an amazing brutality that came. I thought that these would be objected to, but the censor boards or whosoever has passed them, there is no problem. You went through very smoothly. How did this happen? While earlier, even a minor, small-time swear word was looked down upon, censored, beeped out.
Yeah, Wasipur was given an A certificate. It was the first of its kind, and then it opened many doors for others. So, but I personally see the films I have made, right from my first film, Hasil, which was on student politics, Pan Singh Thomas, Sahib Bibi in Gangster. I mean, most of these films deal with gangsters and dacoits. But because I'm a writer myself, there is no swear word in any of these films. You can do without them also.
Do you find the digital media giving you greater flexibility to take adventures of such kinds or not?
I mean, it's a point of view, the way you look at these adventures and opportunities. I look at it differently. Some people look at it, okay, now we can have nude scenes, we can say cuss words. For them, that is an opportunity. For me, this is a different kind of opportunity. It gives me more opportunity to explore the world, to get inside the human mind, to get this opportunity to work with newer actors, newer technicians. I see that as an opportunity, not so I can make, show nudity and cuss words.
Okay. Last question to you on these challenges. Okay, so you made a film, you've given it to the platform has paid you some compensation, but you are not invested into the success of that project, are you? The kind of multiple returns potentially that you could make through a cinematic film, do they match? So while I agree the opportunities are there, but do the cinematic returns, the financial returns match that of a big screen?
No, they don't. They don't. So digital space, OTT medium is actually not so great for traditional producers. Because the platform will give you a certain budget, you will have to make it within that budget. Your producer's fee will be 10% of that budget, and that's it. Earlier, when you were an independent producer, you used to get money from the market, interest pay or banks from wherever, and they used to sell your film at a price. And if the film did well, now the China, you can distribute it there. So that profits were humongous if it's a theatrical release. But in a digital release, your profits are just 10% of your budget.
So would it be accurate to say that there has been a democratization of creativity on the OTT? So the less financially well-off people can come and express themselves, do stuff, and get on, but the premium side may not get the same returns.
Yes, you're right to a certain extent, yes. But if a production house comes up who's making 10 shows in 1 year, for them the profit will be huge.
So basically you're looking at scale rather than margins.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks.
I've stopped producing. I only work as a technician now. I direct and take my fee. That's it.
It's a big loss to us. Don't say that. People will hear you otherwise.
I keep directing.
Dhanya, Chitra, about the problem, it is still lingering in my head, and it's not the kind of things that I would like India definitely to move in this direction. Tell us, have you given some thought on how to fix this problem? I'm sure that there is a reason why these pressures are coming. So have you tried to address these pressures, understand what the problem is, or is it just that you write against the government so you are in trouble?
No. Can I go first, Dhanya?
Yeah, Chitra. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm older than Dhanya and probably everybody else here. The thing is, in law, they look at intent, right? It's all, when you make a mistake, then a judge will look at what was the intent behind this X. I think that what is missing, and perhaps, you could add, or Dhanya could add, is that, what you say, the dialogues are going on. I would like to add that kind of goodwill, dialogues that come from goodwill, which are driven by goodwill and trust. Perhaps there should be more. Because what you have now echo chambers. You have the left sitting on one side, the right sitting on the other. And there's no, and this is not to say this is not traditional media or the other media. The middle path conversation, is not there. And what I find difficult, and also worldwide, is that these platforms, and here I mean by the digital platforms, are driving this conversation, and their only interest is profit. So you see, when you have these major networks, and there is no, I mentioned earlier, there is no operator from Europe, and you also mentioned that you find watching European films now, you're seeing films in Europe or Japan. I think we have the one big aspect where we are, I'm talking about India, and the hope is that culturally we are very different. And we mustn't be blamed, we must not blame technology for it, or, the nonsense that is put out by echo chambers. We really need to have faith in ourselves as a growing economy and be very ambitious as to what is that conversation that we need to get to, which will not be vicious, it'll be strong, it'll speak to the constitution. We just need that solid, discussion.
Tanya, your views quickly. We are short of time. How do you think you can deliver harmony? You don't have to be constantly antagonistic. Is there a solution? What would you do?
Well, I can be harmonious only if the other side wants to be harmonious, right? So when that harmony is not there, definitely it has reached an antagonistic state. But I like you said, it's with the judiciary now. So let's see what happens. And as far as opportunities are concerned, I guess digital is set to grow more. The DigiPub, of which I am a chairperson, we have 95 members. In fact, when people send for membership, I myself have no clue that such websites are operating in all parts of the country. So it's heartening to see that more people are coming up. But we need governments that will encourage the industry in all ways, whether it's business or letting media function. So I hope that happens.
Tigmanshu, there is an audience question for you. Do you believe the level of scrutiny and regulations being levied on the film industry right now will impact the industry and the economic stimulus it brings to India?
Economic stimulus.
You leave that part. I think that's a larger question. But specifically, do you think scrutiny and regulations levied on the film industry right now will impact it in some manner? Is there a self-censorship happening?
Self-censorship was always there. Again, I'll tell you, see, all this is very subjective. But the new regulations, I don't know whether they've implemented it or not, but the new policy which I read about was, if a film is censored and given a certification by the censorship board, even after that, the government can send it back to another regulatory committee for scrutiny, and their word will be final. I have a problem with this, a huge problem, because you have put those people in the censor board. They are your people. The government ही appoint करती है ना इनको. So why will you not accept their certification?
I agree with that, because many times the censor board clears the film, there is a hangama on the streets, and the government and the case goes to court after everything has been done, which raises the cost of producing a film. Is this one of the big challenges today? How do we overcome it?
Where are these films? Nobody is making those films. Which film are you talking about? It happens once in a year, koi aisi film aati hai. Nobody is making those kind of films. Nobody has the courage to make those kind of films. You see, I'll just give you one last thing. When Jawaharlal Nehru was made the chairperson of the Sahitya Academy, he opened the Sahitya Academy and the FTI and the National School of Drama. He was made the chairman of the Sahitya Academy not because he was the Prime Minister, but because he was an author himself. And in the letter he gave, in the acceptance letter, he wrote that I will not let the Prime Minister of the country. He said that I will not let the Prime Minister of the country interfere with my work. ऐसा होना चाहिए.
Very thought-provoking, rich discussion, but I think we are out of time. I wish we could continue this for a little longer, but I'm being told that the time is over, and offline or online, time waits for no one. What I see is that we need a new equilibrium to get established between the opportunities and the challenges, particularly in journalism, and as Tigmanshu says, not so much in the film industry because it's okay. The challenges are there for the government also, and I don't know, we don't have a government representative here, although that would have completed this panel. But all these ideas will test India's democracy, and I see all these themes evolve. On that note, I thank all our panelists, Tanya Rajendran, Chitra Subramaniam, Tigmanshu Dhulia, for taking the time out and talking to us. I also thank our participants for joining in. I hope this discussion has been as educative for you as it has been for me. Thank you very much.